Yellow. Welcome into the spread, NESN.com's football picks podcast. Almost forgot the subtitle of our own podcast. Even after 15 weeks, it's
in multiple years.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's been we've done quite a few of these.
What's the subtitle?
Well, it's just like the NESN football picks. I always say that it's not an official subtitle. Like if there were to be a wiki page, I don't think that would be listed, but maybe it would be now. I don't know. But there is not. But anyway, it's the spread, NESN.com's football picks podcast. We're here to make our against the spread picks for the three best games on the NFL slate this week, as well as do some locks, upsets, and then some just general chicanery discussion. We'll kind of weave in and out of all the major storylines. A lot to get to this week. Not a great slate, I will say that. Last week was much better. I mean, how do you follow up? I mean, like a Niners Saints game. I don't think there's anything on the board this week, but you never know.
Rubbing it in. I didn't see any of that game.
Really?
I was at the Pats Chiefs.
Right.
I didn't see any of that.
You know what's? I'm an idiot too because I ended up watching more of the Packers Redskins, which might have been the worst game of the week instead of that. So that's
there's a lot of good games yesterday. Didn't see because yesterday.
You had Saints Niners and Ravens Bills at the same time, and both of those games in crunch time were very overlapped, big moments, big red zone plays. So,
but I kind of miss having a couple good 1 p.m. games. That hasn't happened in a while.
I like it, but that's true. And they were both on for us in market, so that was the other thing too. Yeah, it is. What is just a complaint? If you go back like 20 years, you'd be like, there's gonna be too many good games on for you, and there's gonna be a channel where you can watch literally every game at the flipping around. That's we're spoiled. That's what I'm getting at. Anyway, how did we do last week, Andre?
Last week, Mike. Wow, no wonder you quickly asked. You went 10-4-2. You did very well.
We had 2 pushes last week, huh?
We had 2 pushes. It was the
you know what's funny? You know what sucks too?
And the Vikings line.
So I'm in this pool. I've mentioned this already. I went 2-2-1 in the goddamn pool this week, despite 2 of my it's the super contest all over. Jesus. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's okay. Ricky, 8-6-2. You still have an 8-game lead in first place. Or maybe 9-game lead. And I went 7-7-2. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. All right.
So I'm not very good at this year.
I guess this is kind of
waiting for the season to end.
We were on different lines, but underdogs last week 9-6-1. There's different. This is from John Ewing at the Action Network. Road teams once again 10-5-1 against the spread last week. The public took a bath 3-11-1 against the spread. Unders 8-8.
Should be noted, we're recording this on Tuesday, so lines can fluctuate.
Yes.
Especially, if you get a quarterback situation up in the end.
11-2?
I believe, unless I'm misreading that. I think I was pretty sharp last week, and I did well, so I'm just imagining. Maybe I was a square, and the public did well. Against public, 3-11-1. So. Anyway, that's a good point. Also, injuries this time of year, you have no idea because either your teams are in it and they're keeping it close to the vest, or they're not and they don't feel obligated to give out too much information.
We're also we're only 2 weeks away from the vaunted Week 17 slate,
right? Where
the spreads are. I mean, we might as well do hat games.
I don't think we've done a Week 17 show in the last.
That's a good point.
Years.
Yeah, we'll have to play it by ear because I think there's going to be at least one game in the AFC South, which we'll get to momentarily. The Titans and the Texans play 2 times in the last 3 weeks. So
that's going to be wild.
And I imagine there might be some Packers.
NFC East
implications
next week.
For grabs.
Yeah.
So
the NFC North still up for grabs. And seeding in both conferences could still be an issue. So might actually be some things worth monitoring in Week 17. However, we're not there yet. We're here to talk about Week 15, and let's get into it. We'll start Sunday afternoon in Nashville, Tennessee. Where the aforementioned Texans and Titans meet again. First of 2 matchups in the next 3 weeks. It's going to come down to the wire in the AFC South more likely than not. You've got the Texans going to Nashville, coming off a loss last week at the Broncos, which I will say I was all over that one. They take on the Titans, a red-hot Titans team behind Ryan Tannehill, who is outplaying the likes of Mahomes, Brady, and Rodgers right now. They're coming off a win at Oakland. The Titans are 3-point favorites here for a 1 o'clock kick. Total sits at 50. Weather, mid-30s, so it's going to be a little chilly by Tennessee standards, but that's about it. Ricky, who do you like here?
Yeah, you mentioned the play of Ryan Tannehill, and that offense has been coming around. They were ranked 29th in yards per play before he took over. Now tied with the Texans, actually, 5.9 yards per play. And, I mean, it isn't all Ryan Tannehill, though. We've seen Derrick Henry for the second straight year come on. here in the later weeks.
Yep.
And what it's doing is it's really setting up the play action for that team. So like what they're doing offensively. Defensively, I think the Titans have a significant advantage in this game. You look at some of the drive stats. Entering Week 14, the Titans were 8th in defensive drive success rate. The Titans 28th. Titans a team that struggle to tackle, struggle against the run. There's also a big special team discrepancy here. If you look at the Pro Football Focus grades, the Titans number 1, Texans number 29. And we've seen that in recent weeks with the Titans, 3 defensive touchdowns and 3 blocks in their last 4 games. We've talked about this with regards to the Patriots and whether those types of things are sustainable. But if you're going up against a team where is that big of a discrepancy on the special teams, maybe you get some of that this week. So I actually really like the Titans in this spot at home. The Texans obviously coming off that letdown game against the Broncos. But, I think the Titans are rolling right now. And I think just from when you encapsulate all 3 phases of the game, I like Tennessee.
It is interesting, and I guess it's a little different because he played for him. But Vrabel feels like he might have the most – he's the best suited Belichick disciple. I think that special teams type thing stands out. It feels like they're willing to evolve week to week.
Their attention to detail.
Yeah,
it feels like, and maybe it didn't in the beginning, but I like this. Recently they haven't been penalized all that much. Second lowest penalty yards per game over the last 3 games. So they're making these adjustments offensively, defensively, just cleaning things up. It feels like getting to their strengths, whereas early in the year, I think they were so focused on figuring out that quarterback situation, which, we sat in and we knocked Mariota various times early in the year.
I wish they made it earlier.
And so, you get a guy that's in there that's sort of, they're playing to their strengths, which is that running game. And then, like I said, the play action, playing off it. Tannehill completing nearly 80% of his throws off play action for 14.3 yards per attempt.
Very good stat.
So, that's indicative of how that offense is operating right now.
Andre.
Titans were one of the most boring watches in the NFL up until Week 7 when Ryan
It's
Tannehill
awesome
took over.
now.
They used to be so boring to watch. Every time I would look at an AFC South game, the Titans were involved. Even in the last 2-3 years, I'm like, and then you try to research and try to handicap the Titans. They're always 15th in every category. They're always middle of the pack in every category. What do I make of this team? But now, since Week 7, you said they're 5.9 yards per play the whole season now?
Whole season.
So
since
Week 7.
They're 4.8 ahead of Tannehill taking over, which was
right. Yeah, that's wild. Since Week 7, they lead the league in yards per play with 6.9, and they also have a very strong yards per play differential since in that same period over 1. They're 5th in that category since Week 7, and Ryan Tannehill averaging 9.8 yards per pass attempt this year. That's more than a full yard better than Matt Stafford, who's second. He's completing 73% of his passes.
Throw a 91-yard touchdown, that'll happen.
Yeah, but that's in the last 7 weeks.
Yeah.
It wasn't in one game. 73% completion percentage, and he's completing nearly 10 yards per pass attempt. He's the greatest quarterback in NFL since Week 7. No.
It's a slippery slope.
Also, Houston's pass defense isn't that great. They're one of 7 teams where opposing quarterbacks have had a passer rating of over 100 against. Arizona, Oakland, Miami, Giants, Detroit, and Atlanta are the other 6 teams. So Houston not in good company there. They have a terrible pass defense. Tannehill's going to tear apart that team. Derrick Henry will open up the game for him. Derrick Henry, last 4 games, 599 rushing yards, 7 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns. These are unbelievable numbers. The Titans might be the best team in football right now. That's not an exaggeration. Right now, in this moment, they might be the best team in football. Why is that an exaggeration?
They may be playing
They've
the
been
best.
playing the best football in
There's
the last
a
7 weeks.
I guess. I don't know if that makes them... if they were on a neutral field against Baltimore, I don't think I would take them.
Well, I forgot about the Ravens for a second.
Yeah.
I got a little carried away there. Hey, top 3 team.
Top 5. Top 10. Top 32.
Top 3.
Top 32. Make it a sweep. This feels like it could be just a blowout, which I don't like in a divisional game, so probably it won't be a blowout. But you look at, I just don't see how Houston's able to stop Tennessee from marching up and down the field. Houston ranks 28th in tackling per according to Pro Football Focus. Now they get Derrick Henry, who, according to also to Pro Football Focus, has been the third most elusive running back this year, behind Jacobs and Chubb. Tennessee, according to Sharp Football stats in the last 5 weeks, number 1 in early down success rate, both passing and rushing. Houston's defense is 24th against the run, 25th against the pass in those same scenarios the last 5 weeks. And I think there's, if you wanted to point to one issue that the Titans have, it's their kicker. Ricky and I were talking about this earlier. You know how many field goals they've made this year? 8. 8 out of 17 field goal attempts. But here's the thing.
When you score in touchdowns, you don't kick field
Well,
goals.
luckily for them, yeah, that's not going to matter because they have the NFL's number 1 red zone offense, scoring touchdowns 73% of the time in the red zone. Houston, by the way, second worst red zone defense behind. Guess who's the worst?
Give me a chance to guess. Dolphins?
No.
Cardinals?
No. Titans pretty familiar with them right now.
Oh, the Jaguars?
No, Oakland.
Oakland.
Who gave up 4 out of 5 touchdowns last week
AFC
to
South
Tennessee.
rival.
Yeah, I know, I understand. It was a tough one. So Houston's coming off a week where they gave up touchdowns on 4 of 5 red zone trips. So I don't even think the kicking thing's going to matter. I think that's a huge mismatch in the red zone. Is there any way? I feel like we're not giving the Houston offense enough credit here. But
I think when you look at big picture,
I don't think the Tennessee pass defense isn't great. If you're looking for.
Tennessee's defense in general, I think, kind of stinks.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the pass defense isn't there. And obviously, it stems a lot from the lack of pressure they're getting on the quarterback. I mean, J.J. Watt, that injury,
right.
You can talk for hours about that. But even with him on the field, I feel like their pass rush wasn't what it usually is this year.
The Titans have also allowed 49 sacks this year. Offensive line, maybe not the best. But Texans, they're 27th in sacks. So maybe that's not going to be an issue in this.
Yeah, and I think, but the other thing too is Will Fuller going to play? Like, if they don't have Will Fuller, they've shown that they're a much different offense. Laramie Tunsil can't stop false starting. I don't know. Houston just, it seems like they have to be in the right matchup, and this doesn't feel like a good matchup for them. So I don't know. We'll probably all look like idiots now.
Maybe. It's also a little bit of a. Feels like the breaks are sort of going the Titans' way this year, whereas generally it's sort of been like that. Like, there's been a few late game scenarios that have gone their way, which to their credit. So maybe it's just evening out from the past few years of them being like the middle of the pack team.
To their credit though, like you go back to that the Chargers game, and like the Chargers just gave them that game on the goal line, right? But they've kicked heads since then. Like they've taken it and run with it. So yeah. A lot of momentum if you believe in that. So, speaking of momentum,
I'll be honest. I didn't expect to be that decisive on a random AFC South game. If you would have,
I agree.
Several weeks ago.
I came to
those games are always a pain in the ass.
I came to the conclusion pretty quickly too once I started digging into numbers. I don't even think that's recency bias with the Texans getting smoked last week. So, anyway. Let's see. Sunday afternoon, 4:25 p.m. kick. Huge game. Huge game.
Isn't this a Sunday night game?
No, this is a Sunday afternoon game.
No, you're lying. No, this is a Sunday night game.
No, the Sunday night game is.
Have you even mentioned what game we're
talking about?
Sunday night
game.
I'm talking about
Bills Steelers.
We're talking about Rams.
Oh, Rams Cowboys.
Jesus Christ.
That's what I'm saying. You're jumping at you there.
Holy moly.
Mention the game.
Are you new here?
Sorry.
We typically go in chronological order.
Yeah, right.
We weren't even talking about the same game. All right, then.
I know we were talking about Week 17 already. Let's slow down here.
Yeah, so we're talking about Bengals Patriots here, right? No, I'm kidding. We're talking about the Rams and the Cowboys, a huge game with NFC playoff implications. The Cowboys somehow just struggling and still, what are they? They are still in first place in the NFC East. Yeah. Did I say NFC East? I thought you said NL East. I was like, oh, might as well be. That is yuck. But they're taking on the Rams. The Rams are one of the hotter teams in football.
Series champions from the NL East.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? The Redskins stink, so the Nationals good for them. Rams are up to 1-point favorites, actually. This was a pick, but now we've got the Rams as 1-point favorites at Dallas. Los Angeles coming off a pretty impressive Sunday night win against Seattle, whereas the Cowboys do have some extra rest, but they're coming off of a loss at Chicago. They've lost 3 in a row. I will say, in the Cowboys' defense, before we get into this pick, they've hellacious defensive teams coming up. They've played, New England, Chicago, and I'm missing one the last 3 weeks. New England, I wrote it down. Buffalo. So they've played some pretty good defenses. Rams maybe not as good, but the Rams are playing well. Andre, who do you like?
I disagree with you. I think the Rams are great at defense. And guess what? The number 2 Pro Football Focus pass rush, number 4 in coverage on Pro Football Focus. So it's number 2 and number 4. Those are great numbers.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, but
can you sit here and explain it to me?
Okay, I'll give you. I'll tell you this. Then the Rams are 3rd in yards per play differential, and they're 5th in yards allowed per attempt. Those are more basic stats for you.
No, that was not my point. I just.
They're also one of 6 teams that allow fewer than 4 yards per rush attempt, and that's after they allow 285 rushing yards to the Ravens, which everyone allows a ton of rushing yards to the Ravens. So their rush defense is great. They're good in the secondary. Dallas is very reliant with Ezekiel Elliott. They're 2-6 this year when he doesn't crack 100 yards. Their offense is going to struggle like it did against Buffalo, like it did against New England, like it did against Chicago. I'm taking the Rams in this one. It's in samestories.com for the Cowboys. And also, defensively, they have the 4th fewest takeaways in the NFL and the fewest interceptions.
They can't figure that out.
They can't force any turnovers.
And then they got one last week, but it was Mitch Trubisky just threw him the ball down and it was at the 1 yard line. That was pretty fitting for the Cowboys right now. They finally forced a turnover and you get the ball at the 1 yard, your own 1 yard line.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just they'll still I think win this division somehow, but I don't think they're going to win this game.
Yeah, the Eagles didn't really inspire any confidence on Monday night.
No.
That week 16 games in the decider wins the division.
Yeah, they should be the coin toss, and whoever wins the coin toss, then we just lose it.
And they're going to host the game against Niners or Seahawks.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. They're going to lose. They're going to win too.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'm with you. I like the Rams as well. You mentioned that pass rush. 1st in hurry percentage, 2nd in pressure percentage, 4th in sacks, all despite blitzing. Ranking 18th in blitz percentage. So what they're able to do is, send forward. I mean, when you have Aaron Donald, that gives you a lot of wiggle room along that defensive line. But they're able to just sort of get after it from just the 4-man rush. Have Jalen Ramsey. I think in this matchup we're going to get a lot of when we saw Stephon Gilmore take away Amari Cooper in that Patriots Cowboys game a few weeks ago. Maybe it's a similar formula here. Could be a long day for that Cowboys offense. And then offensively for the Rams, I think they're finding their stride a little bit, starting to feed Todd Gurley a little bit more. Maybe that limited workload early in the season is coming back to their benefit right now.
Probably not going to make the playoffs, so.
That's the other thing. They're going to host a playoff game. The Rams aren't going to make the Rams can win out, go 11-5, and miss the playoffs.
Yeah, well, it's a game both teams need, obviously. But yeah, I like the Rams.
Yeah, I also like the Rams too. I read a story. Actually, I read a couple stories, both from the Athletic. Not being paid by the Athletic to mention that, but got to give it credit where it's due. One of them from Bob Sturm. This is he's one of the Dallas, the Cowboys beat writers. And the more you dig into this stuff, it just feels like there's a lot of I'll say empty calories is the way to put it. For the Cowboys, who are tied for 9th in yards per play over the last 3 weeks. They're 0-3 in those games, and they're averaging just 16 points per game. They rank 30th in net starting field position. They're last in offensive starting field position. The Rams, middle of the pack, so not a whole lot better. Their opponents, this is from Sturm's story. Opponents' average drive start the last 3 weeks, 38-yard line. Dallas starting at its own 22. And this is the one thing that really stands out. Dak Prescott in the 1st through 3rd quarters over the last 3 games, 68.3 passer rating. They've been scoring all their points that they have had, which hasn't been a ton, and getting all of their yards late in the game when it really doesn't matter. Garbage time, basically. And now you get a Rams team that's trending in the right direction, that needs every win it can get. This is a far more desperate team, a team that seems to be far more confident. I think they're going to come in. They've been better recently, early in games. They're scoring 15.7 first half points last 3 weeks. That's a half point behind their pace last year when their offense was obviously clicking on all cylinders until the playoffs at least. The Rams, everything points to a fast start here for the Rams, even on the road. Again, they have been a little bit differently away from the Coliseum, but they're healthy as they've been in a long time. And also I read another story. This is from Rich Hammond, who covers the Rams. He's kind of saying how McVay is evolving as a play caller this season, and that's what they've needed. And I think it has coincided with them getting healthy. But they were saying, maybe they go back to running an 11 personnel a lot in this game. And I like the idea where they did that against Arizona a couple weeks ago. They ran 51 of 76 plays from 11 personnel. Goff had a 121.7 passer rating for over, I think it was 350. They ran the ball 17 times for 95 yards. And if there's one personnel grouping that Dallas has been susceptible against, it's that 11 personnel where they've allowed a 50% success rate according to Sharp Football Focus. Opponents averaging 4.7 yards per carry. That plays in with what Ricky mentioned with Gurley getting healthy. It seems like they've managed that workload pretty well. So I think Gurley has a big day that sets up some play action, big plays as well, and they find a way to get it done in Dallas. But we'll see.
That offense is good. I think we sort of lost sight of that when they went through some of those struggles earlier in the season. But then you see a game like the other night against Seattle, and they're marching up and down the field throughout that entire first half. Yep. And you got Goff making these throws on the run, and you got Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee coming out of nowhere being good recently. It's like this team's got weapons.
Goff threw a pick 6 in that game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if he doesn't do, you can't.
That was like the only, that was Seattle sort of was
but my
getting
point
back in
is
the
that
game at that point.
Isn't even as, he was
right.
even more of a blowout.
And that crushed like the longest active streak among quarterbacks or throwing a pick 6 or something like that.
You look at the Rams' schedule, games they've won and lost. Their only game that you they shouldn't have lost this game is against the Bucs in Week 4.
Yeah.
Other losses at Seattle, San Francisco, at Pittsburgh, and Baltimore.
What do they have the rest of the way?
Dallas, at San Fran, and Arizona.
So they could go. They'll go 10-6 and miss the playoffs, and people will be like, "Well,
Minnesota still plays Green Bay, right?"
Yeah, I mean they have it's still very much alive, but they would be best suited obviously by winning out. So.
Minnesota doesn't have it easy this week either. At LA.
San Francisco though is gonna be a tough one next week but they got to get through that. Can't be looking ahead. So maybe if you do like Dallas, that's a little bit of a look ahead trap game here for LA. Feeling good going up against a team that's not feeling good, and they have a huge divisional game next week. I don't know. Obviously, none of us like the Cowboys there. So let's go to Sunday night. This game was flexed a few weeks ago, which is a funny. If you going back, let's go back to week 2 or 3 and say, hey, in week 15. We're going to flex the Bills and Steelers. You'd be like, what the hell? Did an asteroid take out the other 30 NFL cities somehow? But that is not the case. We got 2 teams biting for playoff spots here. Are we going to say that the Bills are going to get in, I would imagine?
I don't know. Tennessee might.
Well, this is a big game then. Yeah. So if, the Bills still have the Steelers,
Houston
the
might be the odd team out, to be honest with you.
So this is a big game for both teams.
They got 2 games against the Titans.
Yep. So Bills going to Pittsburgh, take on the Steelers. The Steelers coming off of a win in the desert. Buffalo, a valiant effort against Baltimore that ultimately fell short. They had the ball down, goal to go, or at least in the red zone with a chance to tie that game. They came up a little bit short against Baltimore. So this game in Pittsburgh, Steelers laying 2. Ricky, who do you like?
So my initial lean here was just to take the points and roll with Buffalo because, we've seen one thing they have been able to do this year is shut down offenses that are limited.
Correct.
Where they struggle is when they run into an opponent that is able to actually move the football. And the Steelers, offense, not that great right now. I mean, Duck Hodge has given them a little bit of stability, but for the most part, that's a team that's relying on its defense and special teams. Mm-hmm. However, going back to last week, and you had mentioned this in the lead up to the Bills-Ravens game about how much Baltimore blitzes. And that's, I think it's something that's going to come into play this week. Steelers 6th in blitz percentage. Arguably the best pass rush in football. Very similar to the Rams, I would say, numbers-wise, from a hurry percentage standpoint and things of that sort. And Josh Allen, we saw against the Ravens. He was blitzed 30 times, went 7 of 24. That's a 29% completion percentage. 1 for 16 under pressure. He's also 28th in QBR versus the blitz for the entire season. That's ahead of only Daniel Jones, Mason Rudolph, and Mitch Trubisky. Dead last in adjusted completion percentage when pressured. So this is a guy who, for the strides he has made this year, when he is pressured, he tends to, even if he's not making mistakes, I think he's cut down on that a little bit with the turnovers, but still just not completing passes. You're seeing a lot of deep throws that are over his targets. So I could see that happening this week. I think the Steelers pass rush gets to him at home, and Pittsburgh covers.
Yeah, I agree. Pittsburgh leads the league in sacks. They lead the league in takeaways, second best turnover differential. They're among 6 teams that allow fewer than 4 yards per carry. Josh Allen, you said he's been better in terms of not turning the ball over, but I think that Steelers defense is going to force him to make some mistakes. And Steelers, their offensive line is great too. They've only allowed 22 sacks. Doug Hodges will get some protection. And Doug Hodges, 71% completion percentage. And he's not just, dinking and dunking. With that decimated offense, he's averaging 8.5 yards per pass attempt, which if he had enough repetitions, if you qualified him on quarterbacks, that would have been third in the NFL. That's an incredible number. And what else do I want to say? Since week 4, Pittsburgh has allowed the fewest yards per play. That's basically after they were 0-3. Since then, they've been one of the best defensive team. Also, in a game like this, Bills, Steelers, this is going to be like an old AFC North clash between the Ravens and Steelers, low scoring and not many points. What's going to matter? Kicking. I trust Chris Boswell much more than Steven Hauschka. Chris Boswell might be the best kicker in the league right now. 26 of 28 this season, 93%. He's 7 of 8 beyond 40 yards. And what's his name? Steven Hauschka, 1 of 5 beyond 50 yards. He's not very good from long distances. So, missed kick here and there, it might matter. You're laughing at me, Ricky, right now, but it might matter in a game like this. This isn't the Niners versus
I happen to
Saints.
agree with you. And I do think that could be an element of, the Steelers have been here before in prime time. I mean, this is a team that's used to playing in prime time.
Even Doug Hodges, he has a prime. Doug Hodges has a Sunday Night Football victory.
This is, I think, Buffalo's first game on Sunday Night Football since like the mid '90s or something. It's been a pretty long streak, whereas I feel like you see Pittsburgh all the time. So I don't know. Maybe that gives you some sort of edge when it comes to.
I think Juju's going to play too, right?
I don't. It's sort of up in the air, but I don't think they need him.
It doesn't matter right now the way that they are just plucked receivers. It's incredible. Make it a sweep, I guess. I don't have a whole lot to add. That Pittsburgh defense is like top 5 against the pass and run in DVOA. Like they are, I just don't see where the offense comes from for Buffalo. I also wonder too, emotionally or whatever you want to say, like did Buffalo kind of use it all up last week against Baltimore?
Yeah,
a game that was
it's tough to bounce back.
That was their biggest non-Patriots game in years. And I wonder if there's, it's two tough teams that you're going up against. And you got they have the Patriots again next week, right? So it's a little bit of a look ahead spot there. So I like it's just a lot of stuff pointing to Pittsburgh here. I think the coaching thing it's a bit of a wash, but Tomlin has done an incredible job.
We kept criticizing Mike Tomlin over the years.
Ricky and I were talking.
He should be coach of the year.
Ricky and I were talking about this on our walk back to the studio this afternoon, and I still think he gets over his head in game with some things, and he makes some questionable decisions in the moment, and that's I think where you see the discrepancy against a guy like Belichick, where it's just Belichick always is 3 steps ahead of Tomlin, but from a week to week, year by year standpoint, I think Tomlin's as good as anyone at motivating guys, controlling egos, et cetera, et cetera. So getting Minka Fitzpatrick early on helps. If you do like Buffalo, I did just look this up, the OddsShark database. I was kind of curious. It just anecdotally doesn't feel like the Bills have been short favorites a whole lot lately, and they haven't. Since the start of last year, just 4 times they've been underdogs of 3 points or fewer. In those games, they are 3-1 straight up, 3-0-1 against the spread. So when the odds makers are expecting a close game, they've typically done pretty well. And all those games, except for one, went under. So they are comfortable in those low-scoring games. The line or the total right now is set at 36.5. So we're looking at another low-scoring game here. So if you're liking Buffalo, those are a couple of things to feel good about there. So.
All right, let's do. This is just real quick. I just want to mention. I saw this when we were putting together some research. But of the 67 points that they have scored in Duck Hodges' 3 starts, Pittsburgh's defense and special teams have accounted for 35 of those. That's over 50% of their point total.
That doesn't seem very sustainable.
So if you are leaning
Patriots
Buffalo, maybe that's one thing to consider here. But like you said, I think this is going to be a low-scored game. That's a very low over-under total, obviously, but I think I maybe would still err on the side of the under.
Yeah.
This could be a high teens game.
It certainly feels like the odds makers are trying to get us to take Pittsburgh here. Because if you move that up to 3, doesn't this become a whole lot different?
3 looks a lot.
Yeah. So I think there's some.
Especially when they got the greatest kicker in NFL history.
That's not what I said. He's a very good kicker. Remember there was a playoff game. couple years back, it was like all field goals, and it was Boswell kicked all of them, and he got the post-game interview, on-field post-game interview.
Can't wait till the Titans-Steelers AFC Championship. But
that might be the case.
It could. You and I will have to talk off here.
I don't think the Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl this year or go to the Super Bowl this year. There's a lot of really good teams in the AFC this year.
I said this the other day. I think there's a chance if they get Pittsburgh in the divisional round, they could lose at home to Duck Hodges. I don't think it's likely, but that's where they're at right now offensively.
I don't think Duck will beat
defense travels. I know. Yeah, I'm just saying.
That's anyway. Imagine Roethlisberger was never able to do it with Duck.
I wonder what the line would
set up for him.
What's the line there?
Awesome offseason, though.
Oh, my God. It'd be a meltdown of epic proportion. Well, that's assuming the Patriots aren't disbanded and kicked out of the league.
We don't know who's going to be coaching.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Belichick could be in the middle of a 5-year suspension.
Steve Belichick will be. You won't know the difference, though.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you saw the video. He sounds just like him. Andre, who's your lock?
Lock. Guess which team leads the league in yards per play differential since week 8? You'll never guess.
The Titans?
No, the Los Angeles Chargers.
I thought the Titans were the best team in football.
The Los Angeles Chargers. They play in a lot of close games. I think this is still a really good team. Now that Derwin James is back, their defense is better. Melvin Gordon, last 5 games, averaging 4.7 yards per carry. All 8 of the Chargers' losses are by 1 possession. 2-8 in 1 possession games. It has to regress. I like the Chargers.
Hasn't this been going on for 10 years? They're record in 1 possession.
So my point is, if I'm getting points with the Chargers at home, I'm going to take them. And they're getting points against the Vikings.
Melvin Gordon, by the way, his contract's up after this year, right?
Maybe that's what he's playing for money.
To play for, yeah, exactly.
So I like the Chargers.
Ricky.
I'll take the Bucks. I believe they're 4-point favorites at the moment over the Lions. Lions have been a great team to fade recently. 1-6-1 against the spread in their last 8 games. Coming off a week in which they were blown out by 13 to the Vikings. The rushing game hasn't been there, which means David Blau gonna have to do a lot in this game. I just don't see it happening because that Tampa Bay run defense is pretty good. Lions. I'll just keep fading the Lions.
What was the spread?
I believe it was Bucks by 4.
Oh.
Jameis Winston has
you got
23.
different information?
No, I was just spacing out.
Wait. Do you think Jameis Winston will throw 30 interceptions this year?
What's he at right now?
I think 23. Very possible.
No.
This is the last guy who threw 30 interceptions in the season.
That is a very tough thing to just throw out there at the end of the show. Are you looking? How many does he have this year?
23. He needs to throw 7 more in the last 3 games.
I don't think so. I think this week takes him off the pace.
I think he's in the clear.
For my lock, this was an automatic. Not even looking at the spread. Don't care. You could tell me it's 15. You could tell me it's 30. I'm taking it anyway. I got the Oakland Raiders at home. Final game of the Coliseum. Of course. This was set up. Oh, my God. They're only 6.5-point favorites against the Jaguars. The Jaguars might be the worst team in the NFL right now. No. I'm not even thinking twice about it. Put all the money in the world on it.
You had this game circled.
Give it to me. I've been laying in the weeds. I tell you what, I got my pick in real early this morning because I'm like, no one's taking Oakland from me this year. This is layup.
Are they already done with their home
schedule?
John
Gruden's gonna show up with like the pins, needles sticking out of his head, like he's in the black hole. He's gonna coach the entire game with Legion of Doom shoulder pads on. Oh my God, they're gonna burn this place to the ground. In my notes, I don't even need to see the line. I looked it up. It's 6.5, just so I know to help the people. But this is how often can you say this is the final game in a stadium? 2 years in a row. They did it last year too. We thought this was it for them in Oakland. This is the final game. They killed the Broncos, 27-14, a game that wasn't even that close. They were 2.5-point underdogs in that spot. And like I said, the Jaguars stink. I think the Raiders run all over them.
I think we said going into that game too that like we would revisit that
this
year.
Yes, and here we are.
This has been a long time coming.
I've had this one circled on my calendar.
You love the Raiders.
We're gonna have to dig into the archive.
You love the Raiders.
I love this spot.
You like
What do
the
you want?
Raiders culture.
It's gonna be 13.
It's
let
a
me
big
tell you.
relocation game. You know, you
I
can
wish
never sell those
I'll
to
shoot
us.
you some.
I remember you pulled up a stat last year.
No, I'm not. It's not. Oh, that's right. I have to dig back into it. But I'll shoot you some screenshots too. I tell you what. I was watching that game the other day. There are some sad-looking Raiders fans. There was like a 6-year-old kid who was like dressed up in the black hole. Hilarious. That kid's gonna be. He might be drunk on Sunday. He's gonna be. Let him play quarterback. I don't care. They'll still win. So I like the Raiders there. Let's see here. Upsets. Ricky, who do you got?
I will take the Dolphins, who are 3.5-point underdogs over the Giants. This is the second straight week the Dolphins are playing in MetLife Stadium. They just covered against the Jets
awesome.
there. So,
Didn't
hey,
the,
might as well stick around and beat the Giants while you're at it.
The Bills did that at the start of the season.
Covered last
Yes.
week.
I think you're right. Somebody did.
Yeah, I don't know. Just give it. Dolphins are been a sneaky good bet this year as well. 7-2 against the spread in the last 9.
Maybe they were
Giants
supposed to be
coming
the
off a
worst
game
team in
they
NFL.
covered against the Eagles, but as we mentioned earlier, I think that was more of an indictment on Philadelphia's offense than anything. So.
Going back real quick to my lock. This was from Walter Football last year. The last 4 teams who moved their franchise went 3-1 against the spread in their last home games before moving. I don't know if the Raiders count twice in a row, but they went, whatever. Sorry.
Padding the stats.
Anyway, I'm going to take the Arizona Cardinals over the. Who are they playing?
Great job, Andre.
Oh, Cleveland Browns.
He
Cleveland Browns.
He won up you. You said you don't care about the line. He doesn't care about the opponent either.
No,
He's going in
actually,
blind.
my Arizona pick has a lot more to do with who
You're
they're
fading
playing.
Arizona.
Is this because you once said you look like the mascot?
Yeah. I'll take Arizona. Their defense stinks, but I don't think it matters much when Baker Mayfield is the one throwing the ball for Cleveland. He stinks. A lot of stenches in this game. A lot of stink. So I'm going to take the points.
The old stench ball.
And Cleveland's strength is their Nick Chubb. But, Arizona, their defense may stink, but their rush defense is pretty average, allowing
It's their Nick Chubb.
4.3 yards per carry. So I think they limit Nick Chubb. Baker Mayfield makes a couple of boneheaded errors. He's already partying his
limit
butt off.
Chubb.
It's December. He's probably attending a Christmas party this week.
Baker
he
Mayfield
wants the
still got
offseason
the
to come.
dustbuster out.
Cleveland is out of contention. Odell Beckham Jr. wants out of Cleveland. He's probably coming to the Patriots next year, and the Patriots will be back in the Super Bowl contention, but not this year, I don't think.
You got to cheat. You got to keep Chubb intact. Can't let Chubb get going.
No.
Yeah.
No. For my
Why?
upset, nothing. I'll take the Bears over the Packers. I think it's 4.5. Let me double check. Not like it matters. I think the Bears. Yeah, 4.5.
The Bears.
Bears have a very good chance of winning this game outright. I could see the Packers losing out. I don't think it's likely, but it's.
I think they might be the worst 10-win team.
I go back and forth on them, but they still haven't figured it out. It's just not all there. And the Chicago defense has been really good lately, especially against the pass. In the last 7 games, allowing just 6.2 yards per attempt, 8 touchdowns in just. Whoa, bless you.
Sorry.
8 touchdowns in 7 games, 4 interceptions, 12 sacks. Running defense has been pretty decent, allowing 3.9 yards per attempt. Green Bay, by the way, averaging 6.8 yards per pass this year. They were 6.6 last year. I saw a graphic. They are like basically the same exact offense. So you're a terrible person.
All those stenches getting to you.
Aaron Jones is good, though.
I know but Matt LaFleur. I've watched a lot of Packers and it's disgusting. I was talking to our colleague Mark DiBenedetto about this the other day. Like they keep winning, but I don't feel good after watching it. It's weird. Like I guess wins are wins, but it's just nothing about it is inspiring. The defense, I guess, is bend don't break, but Trubisky's playing well. So
Guys, breaking news.
what's up?
Maybe I'm late on this, but first time seeing. Patriots film crew contains 8 minutes of direct Bengals sideline
You're about
footage.
3 hours late on that.
I had meetings this morning.
Okay. Well, there you go.
8 minutes?
It's all right, though. It's an interesting story.
The debate rages on. So, all right, what are the odds when we reconvene next week? We'll be talking about the Patriots.
I think they'll do an
Still being in the
investigation,
NFL.
and Bill Belichick will be suspended all of next year.
I told Mike this yesterday
And
that
Cam
like
Newton will still might
I
retire.
don't.
in the next 3
I
weeks.
disagree with you because I don't think they're gonna. Even if Belichick is somehow behind this, or even if they do think it's nefarious, I don't think there's any hard proof tying him to it. So he's going to skate. Your point.
No, what I was telling you yesterday about like going into each season when you get the futures bet first coach to be fired. Every year I think about putting money on Belichick because like
what is it like?
Aren't they like one like discovery away from him being fired or suspended for a year or something?
What would it take to get him fired?
I mean, I'm sure it's going to be something. It's going to be very nefarious, but I don't know. I guess you got to see. It's the thing about these things is like you can't really put your finger on it because if you were to tell me there'd be a cheating scandal ahead of the game against the Bengals,
What a wild 2 decades.
But another point about this
always
too,
something
is if it's, I don't know, couldn't this be much more widespread if it's for a game against the Bengals?
Yeah, you would think.
This
but like to that point, why has nothing come out about it since 2015 or whatever? That's the other thing too.
That's what sucks about all these things.
Like, you're the smartest head coach in the NFL. Maybe you're smart because you keep doing this. Like, why are you filming the Bengals? You're gonna win that game anyway.
Why are you? Well, no. I bet you most teams do it, and there might not even be a huge advantage to it. But why are you so? If you're doing it so often, how are you so bad at not getting caught still? Like, figure it out. Be a better cheater if you're cheating. Can't you just
be like on your iPhone in the stadium? Like,
so like that's you're gonna hear that a lot from Patriots fans, and that's what Belichick basically said. I think with the Jets thing is like anybody in the stadium could be doing the same thing. Like if you went to the stadium with your phone, and you're sitting adjacent to the sideline, you could do it all afternoon if you wanted. But
for a team that's so
who uses signals anymore? Don't they just communicate in the helmets?
Former NESN.com Patriots beat writer Jeff Howe mentioned this, I believe, in one of his tweets today. He said that there are still some. He talked to a coach that has no axe to grind against the Patriots, who said some teams still do hand signals for substitutions in play calling. Not as often, but yeah.
So a lot of attention to detail in Foxborough, flying by the seat of their pants when it comes to certain things.
That's funny.
Maybe they are just shooting a documentary.
Actually, have you watched any of that? Do your job? It's really good. Check it out.
There's a lot of sideline footage from the.
That's the other thing. I guess like an advanced scout's different. Not a whole lot of in-game footage at all from anybody. Although, like, what is the like the dietitian? Like,
Have you watched the Belichick Nick Saban documentary on HBO?
What about it?
Have you watched it?
I thought it came out tonight.
Is it tonight?
I think it's tonight.
I thought it was last night.
I don't have HBO.
So. Long story short, I haven't watched it.
Somebody send me that copy of that. All right, for the skinny guy, for Ricky, I'm Mike. We'll see you again next week.